Global Artivism Conference 2024 is a groundbreaking event that converges art and activism to spark transformative change. Presented by a powerful coalition of partners, including the Tshwane University of Technology's Faculty of Arts and Design, the Riky Rick Foundation, the Community Arts Network, the City of Tshwane and the Global Commons Alliance, this conference will revolutionize the way we think about the role of art in driving social impact. By bringing together changemakers, the conference is set on pressing issues like climate change, gender-based violence, social inequality and discrimination. To learn more about Artivism and this upcoming conference, we joined in studio by Kumi Naidoo, climate justice activist and co-founder of the Riky Rick Foundation. Kumi, good morning and a great chat.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Let's talk about the nexus or the sweet spot that art and activism, meet to create social change.
So right now, if we are brutally honest with ourselves, activism is not delivering what we need. We are not getting solutions on climate change fast enough. We're not eradicating corruption. We're not reducing inequality. And one of the reasons, as somebody who's been an activist for the better part of my life, I've come to realize is that the problem is we aim our messages mainly at the brain, facts, figures, science, rational policy arguments. And what we do is we ignore the heart, body and soul. Mm-hmm. And if we want to move people, say on climate change on the scale that we need, and this was one of the inspirations that Riky Rick left with us, that you have to move people through reaching them in the heart. And
how do you do that? How do you
well,
reach
basically,
people
if we look at our own history, right? We look at our own history and how we fought the anti-apartheid struggle. If we didn't draw on music, on visual art, on theatre, because most of our people were deprived of education and were consciously left not literate. So how did we reach people? There's lots of examples historically of how you can reach much larger numbers of people if you creatively harness the power of arts and culture in its broadest sense. Everything from dance to music to rap to visual art. And art also, artists help us to imagine the future, a future that is yet to be born, because politicians and even activists who are in the current moment are so focused on current reality that they sometimes cannot imagine new futures that are yet to be born. So for all of these reasons, we say that harnessing the power of arts and culture on its own will not deliver us salvation from all the injustices that people face, but failing to harness the power of arts and culture will almost guarantee that we will fail.
Harnessing the power of arts and culture is one thing, and activism is a totally different dimension altogether. So I'm still keen to understand how should artists harness the power of activism and then marry those two in order to create a very powerful and a solid social change model?
So the important thing is artists and cultural creators around the world are not waiting for activists to come and say, hey, you have to get involved.
Oh, of course.
They are taking leadership already. In fact, I would say some of the best expressions of activism is coming from the arts and culture sector, right? Because they are able to reach people. Like if you're taking the climate movement, for example, globally, there have been certain songs, for example, and one of the bands that will be performing is from the Pacific, right, at the conference, where they have all these small island states, and they've been able to unite and get the message across. So, but activists themselves also need to recognize and be more respectful of the power of arts and culture. And what we are trying to do in this conference is to promote the respect for the power of arts and culture, to encourage foundations, governments, businesses, and so on, to direct more resources towards arts and culture if we are to address gender-based violence, poverty, and so on, the urgent issues of our time.
And then how do the connections that have been made at the conference lead to long-lasting change?
So basically, this conference is part of building a movement. And what we expect is that we will continue this convening on an annual basis and also regional convenings and so on. But we also are looking at how we can connect artists virtually. So one of the conversations is how we can create a global digital platform where arts and culture workers can go to find information about scholarships, fellowships, funding, and so on, but also where they can find people with similar interests, maybe in faraway countries, but using digital capability to collaborate and co-create artistic output.
And then grassroots organizing and policy change. How does Artivism connect with those different forms of activism?
So basically, for any policy change, right, what is clear, politicians do not change policies unless they can see that there's a large number of citizens who are pushing for that.
Of course.
And the best way to show those in power that they must act is if they start seeing that actually it's not just people in NGOs and trade unions and religious organizations that are advocating, but then they look around and say, hey, that powerful singer, that powerful dancer, that powerful actor, that powerful artist are all standing and using their voice and their creativity to ask for the same thing, then it makes the pressure on political leaders to make policies much more easier to get them to act with the courage which often is lacking.
Right, right. All right, let's talk about the details of this conference.
Yes.
What is on the agenda that will serve as a conversation starter?
So, firstly, there are lots of artistic expressions that will be there, song, dance, music, and so on from around the world. Secondly, we have keynote conversations which are tackling big issues of how do we resource arts and culture in a much more powerful way than we're doing now. There are lots of workshops, and most of the content of the conference is being offered by people who are coming to the conference from around the world and from South Africa. We will also be having learning exchanges where we're taking people from around the world to arts and culture projects in the Gauteng region.
Okay.
And what's important about this, right? This is the first global conference on Artivism of this scale. And that's why it's called the inaugural Global Artivism Conference. And just to say, we consciously wanted it to be in Africa because this is the sort of where humanity started on our continent. But we also want this to be global South or global majority led.
Right,
so that
right.
we have a strong anti-colonial message in what we're doing, that we have a strong economic justice message in what we're trying to achieve, and so on.
This is definitely the panacea for all our social ills. Great chatting to you, Kumi.
So I just want to say people are still able to join the conference.
Okay.
If they can write to comms, COMMS, at globalartivism.com.
Okay.
People can join online, which is free of charge from around the world.
Great stuff.
But also we have options of people participating. So if they could write to that email address, we will try and facilitate the participation.
Kumi, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is all we needed, eh?
Thank you.
Well, that is Kumi Naidoo, climate justice activist and co-founder of the Riky Rick Foundation, talking to us about a groundbreaking event that converges art and activism to spark transformative change.